Hey guys, my name's Lance and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite things, jigs. Hey, what's up guys? I get the same question asked to me time and time again is, what is a jig? What type of jig should I throw? What color of a jig should I throw? And how do I fish a jig? Well, today we're going to talk all about jigs, and we're going to go over that. Now, what is a jig? Well, basically all a jig is a piece of lead on a hook. As you can see, that's all it is. Just lead on a hook, and it's painted. What type of jigs are there? Well, there are tons. There are so many types, it's ridiculous. Well, let's talk about the main jigs and the basics of what you need. So first off, let's run through the types real quick and then I will go through each one individually and explain them. You have a swim jig, you have a finesse jig, you have a football head jig. I'm picking them up off my table here, skirt tied up. That is a brush or a flipping jig. Many call it a flipping, I call it a brush head jig. And you also have what's called a casting or an archy head jig. The reason why I like a football head jig is these jigs are awesome. All you have to do, throw it out, let it sit there, and drop to the bottom. When it drops to the bottom, it's going to do that. Notice that profile, the hook sitting up, and all you have to do is drag it. The thing that's really awesome about a football head jig is you can throw it over rocks, you can throw it around brush piles, big humps, flat bottoms. It's a great, amazing lure to use in ponds because most of them are shell rock bottoms or flat spongy bottoms in ponds. You want it to mimic a crayfish or a crawdad. What does a crayfish or a crawdad do? Well, I'm going to show you one with a trailer on it. And this is one with a trailer. Notice it has a crawl trailer. It's going to hit the bottom. What's it doing? It's laying there. Well, notice how that profile's up. When this is in the water, your legs are hanging up just a little bit. So all you want to do is just lift your rod tip slowly, and it's going to drag it and drag it. Every once in a while, just barely pop your rod, and it's going to do this, which is going to act similar to a crayfish or a crawdad. These are amazing freaking jigs. They are my #1 favorite, and it's my #1 confidence lure out of all the lures that are on the market. I throw these year round. When people say that you shouldn't be throwing a football jig, and I'm throwing a football jig and I'm catching fish with them. That's the basics of a football head jig. We'll go into colors and trailers, what type of rod, reel, and line later in a different video. Next up is the brush head jig or a flipping jig. Many call it a flipping jig. I like calling it a brush head jig. That's what I learned it by. What is a brush head jig or a flipping jig, you ask? Well, notice the head on that jig. Notice the line tie is molded around the head of the jig. Also notice how flat the top of that is. What is really awesome about this jig, throw it out and look where that hook stands up. If you put a crawl type trailer on that hook or any type of trailer on that hook, where is it standing? It's standing straight up. When a bass comes along and grabs it, all they're getting is a mouthful of hook. That's when you set your hook and you're on. A brush head jig is my #2 jig. I love them just about as much as a football head jig. I would throw these around timbers, stumps, brush piles, laydowns. If you're on Lake Fork, I'll throw a brush head jig all day long on Lake Fork. Lake Fork is well known for its timber and its stumps. That's a great place for these. Anyhow, I will go into the color, line type, rod and reel in a different video. on this jig and all these jigs later on. It explains to you when, why, and what kind to throw at that time. Alright, next we have a arky head jig, or what a lot of people call a casting jig. I don't necessarily call it a casting jig. I pretty much call it an arky head jig. If you'll notice the arc in that's what makes it the arky head jig, or a casting jig. Basically, this is just a jig that you can cast out and retrieve, either slowly dragging it, hopping it, or just a solid fast retrieve back. I prefer to use these to throw around different items, cover and drag it, sometimes flip it in and out of cover, sometimes with a good heavy arky head. What is awesome about an arky head is you can skip these in and around docks and under brush piles, and they are amazing when you do that. Many people ask what a heavy cover jig is, or what a cover jig is. Just my personal opinion. Everybody has their own opinions, but if you go to the store, go to Bass Pro, go to whatever local tackle shop you have, look at what is considered a heavy cover jig, and then compare it to an arky head jig. There's not much difference. But basically, either one of them, you can skip them, you can pitch them and flip them in and around and under docks, around brush piles. They're an amazing jig, as you can see. Notice that the angle of the hook sits up, so when you put a trailer, it's going to sit up a little bit higher. These jigs are fish catching machines, just like a football jig. We will go into color, rod, reel, and line type later in a different video. Next up, we have the swim jig. What is a swim jig, you ask? Well, that's a swim jig. What really is a swim jig, you ask? Well, a swim jig is basically a lot like a spinnerbait. Only difference is a swim jig doesn't have the blades. A swim jig has a shad-shaped head, as you'll notice, and also notice that vertical line tie on the head. This allows you to drag it and pull it through weeds and grass and come straight through it. I love a swim jig, especially in the cooler times of the year. Anytime they're chasing shad or bait fish and you just see them chasing, they will chase a swim jig just like they will chase shad or any other kind of bait. It's a great reaction strike bait when they're chasing, and I love throwing them. Next up is a finesse jig. A finesse jig is basically just a rounded head jig head with a lighter line hook on it. You'll notice the skirt is trimmed a lot shorter, and it's a lot more smaller profile. A finesse jig comes into play when it's colder outside, or you're fishing very pressured waters, or the bite is just downright tough. These are amazing jigs because you can throw these around practically anything. Boats, docks, cover, tree, stumps, it doesn't matter. Rocks, and these work. These are awesome jigs. Try a finesse jig out next time that you're having a hard time catching fish or even getting a bite, and they will work well for you. We will go over the line, rod, reel, and when to fish these. More details in a different video. The things I love about jigs is no matter what type of jig it is, they are very versatile lures. You can drag them, you can hop them, you can skip them, you can pitch them, you can flip them, you can swim them, you can burn them back to the boat. It doesn't matter. They are completely awesome, and they are fish catching machines, and I love them. They are my #1 lure, and I will throw them on any given day of the week. Anyhow, that's the different types of jigs. We'll go over in a video later on about each different style on how to throw them, what kind of colors you want to use, what kind of jig trailers you're going to use, what type of line for each style, what type of rod and reel. Anyhow, as always, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel. And thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day.